Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elevate Your Life podcast. My name is Paul Croto, and I'm here with Cheryl Morley.
Hello, friends. I'm excited today.
I'm glad you're excited, Cheryl, because we're going to talk in our next podcast about emotions, how important it is to have that emotion of being excited like you. Your emotion is excitement is very contagious.
That's perfect, right? Because we definitely would like to be contagious in a good way and not a bad way.
And especially with all that's going on in the world. So, well, Cheryl, this is an exciting moment for me. We've taught 21 Laws a few times already, actually, over the years, but John Maxwell just released a brand new version of it. So this is the 25 years now, and I literally bought it in the day he released it. I remember, a friend of mine telling me about this new book coming out and getting it. So I've literally been reading, there's no book I've read more over the past 25 years than this one. I mean, I made this the cornerstone of my life. And to spend the next 21 weeks with you teaching these again and kind of just putting a new spin on them, because as we grow, things change. And not that these laws are changing per se, but how we view them changes. So let's talk about, some things before we get into the first law. Let's just talk about these laws in general. And first of all, the word law means this is non-negotiable. So you may comment to us that, well, I don't really like that law. Well, we don't really care if you like it or not. Because it's a law, It's like the law of gravity. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. I mean, that's fine if you don't like it, but it doesn't mean that it's not a law. It's still a law.
Right.
And it still needs to be taken seriously, and it still needs to be worked on, right? Which is what's exciting to me, is that we can work on these and become better leaders. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I think that it is such a blessing for all of us.
Absolutely. So Cheryl, what are some of the opening remarks that we want to make to people here before we start this 21 laws?
Well, just that leadership requires the ability to do more than one thing well. Well, come on. What? More than one thing?
We hear, and John gets this question all the time. Well, John, what's the one thing I could do to become a better leader?
Yeah.
There is no one thing.
No, there's 21.
There's 21.
And yeah. And I love this because I think it's easy for moms to understand, right? Because you can't just do one thing well when you're a mom. You've got to be multitasking. You've got to be doing all sorts of things. So to understand that there is more than one thing, right? And that it's a process to become better. I love this whole idea, Paul, of the 1% every day, right? That then you don't just think, oh my gosh, I have to hurry and get good at one thing and then I'm great. No, it's a process. And there's 21 things that you have to get good at. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do is give you a sheet actually to use as kind of like a scoring sheet. Some of these laws you're going to do 10 at, you're perfect at. Some of these you're not going to be so good at. Now, no one's good at all 21 or 10s at all 21. John even says there's 5 or 6 that he struggles with to this day after 25 years.
Yeah.
And as we'll talk about that, building a team and finding people that have those laws mastered that you don't have mastered, so that, I think the two of us complement each other a lot. There's some things you're really great at, some things I'm really great at. And together we thank God they're not the exact same things. That we can fill in the holes in each other.
And I encourage you to really be thinking about that. And as soon as you know what you're good at, you can look for a partner or partners, even in your life, Paul, right? I mean, I'm talking a little bit more about business, but that can really complement you. And I think it's so important. That's why they say opposites attract. Well, there's a reason why.
Yeah. They fill the holes that the other person is. Yeah. So, people ask John, well, with John, why is there 21 laws? I thought it was really funny that he started with 56. Could you imagine it? Cheryl, today we're going to start the 56 laws of leadership. We'll be going the next year and 4 weeks.
I will say that does seem a bit overwhelming, much more so than 21 laws.
Yeah. So what they did is they sat down to 56 and like, okay, well, which one of these have something in common? And they kind of smushed some into some and landed up with 21. But that, I mean, if we can get them down to 5, we would do it. we went as far as we could on it, and 21 was the number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we mentioned that not everyone does all 21 laws well. That you mentioned that these laws can be learned, which just touch on for one more second, Cheryl, because I know this was the big aha moment for you in your life.
Yeah, it really was. I just thought leaders were born, right? And they are, right? And I love that John
Yeah.
says, everyone asks him, are leaders born? Yeah, they are. Everyone is born, but you are not necessarily born a great leader. In fact, it takes time and work and dedication and grit and all of these things to learn these and be good at all of them. And again, it doesn't mean you're going to be great at all of them. It means, and I love that too. You know, you can be great at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but you just need to be aware that there's 21 and work on all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing we want to mention is that these laws stand alone. So we could start with any one of them, because it's not like this one's based off of this one, which is based off of this one, kind of like reading chapters in a book. If you just can't start at chapter 7 and start reading, you missed, a lot already. With this, you could literally pick any law in the book, read it first, and jump around as much as you want, because I don't want to say they have nothing to do with each other, because they all work together at the end. But you could start at chapter 7 on this and jump around as much as you want. As long as you got the whole thing done, is all that matters. But I do love the order that John puts them in as far as teaching goes. But there is no rhyme or reason to the order.
Well, and it's best if I stick to the order, only because I go looking for the ones I like.
That sounds like something I do good. Yeah,
I'm going to do this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds easier.
Work on that one today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then we also realize, Paul, that the laws carry consequences, which I don't like the word consequences because I really think that a lot of times, and I know my sister says this to her son a lot, you can choose what you do, but you cannot choose the consequence, which I'm like, yee. And so when I hear the word consequence, but consequences can be good things too. But for me, I always think of consequences as bad. So, just kind of that mind shift a little bit and just knowing, because the consequences that you will receive for learning these and using them in your life, unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And, if you don't follow these, or if you don't follow these 21 laws, there's consequences. I mean, people will not follow you. So the subtitle of this book is, if you follow these 21 laws, people will follow you.
Yeah.
But if you don't follow these 21 laws, obviously people will not be following you, and you will not be a leader. So there's definitely consequences to not following these 21 laws. And last but not least, Cheryl, these laws are really the foundation of leadership. I love what John says, that they work everywhere, every time, for everyone.
Yeah.
So don't listen to this and say, well, that really doesn't pertain to me. Nope. Let me just say that once again. Everywhere, every time, for everyone. Okay.
Yeah,
There's no exceptions on these.
Yep.
So I love this. And Cheryl, people they'll be like, oh, I don't want to listen to this podcast because I'm not really a leader. Listen. You're
a leader.
You got children, you're a leader. You got a spouse, you're a leader. I mean, you got a family, you're a leader. I mean, you are, because it's just leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And we're always influencing people in our lives, whether you know it or not, to do things. So it's learning this skill of influence is really what we'll be talking about over the next 21 years.
Well, 21 years or 21 weeks, Paul. Probably 21 years.
21 years, yeah.
It's going to be 20.
Cheryl had a heart attack there, like 21 years. What?
I'm like, wow, okay, well, that's fine.
Paul's got this futuristic mindset here.
That's right.
We'll be 86, but
I'm only going to be 40. So
44, yeah.
So how well we lead determines how well we succeed.
Yep, right? That's the law of the lid.
Yeah, it is. So here we are, the law of the lid. That means put a lid on it.
Yeah.
And you want to lift your lid so that
Well,
So
let's
that
explain to people what a lid is to start with here. So the law of the lid states that there's a lid. And hopefully, if you're
you
watching
have
this
one.
on YouTube, and if you're not going to be able to understand this as well. The lid's here, and if, whatever the lid is on a scale from 1 to 10, if it's the leadership lid that you have right now is like, so if I ask you, how good of a leader do you feel like you are? And I'm like, well, I'm like a 6. I'm not, I'm above average. So I'm like 6. Okay. So your lid's at 6. And that means your team, your organization, whatever you're running, your household relationships, that's as good as they can be because they're always going to hit the lid.
Well, you know
The
what I
only way
thought?
to make those things in your life better is to lift your lid. And I love that,
You
Cheryl.
need to
You
become
know,
better.
we always talk about what we do for a living. And people ask us, well, what do you do? You know, and we never have an exact answer. We never know exactly what to say, but I love lid lifter. I love being known as someone who lifts other people's lids because I know if I can lift someone's leadership lid and make them a little bit better of a leader, I've changed their whole life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And something that really struck me is that, like you said, Paul, if you're a 6, so you can hold your hand up and that's your lid, and then everything else bumps up against it, right? Well, the most interesting thing that I learned this time going through these is that if you're a 6, then nobody on your team, household, relationship, whatever it is, can be better than a 5.
Right.
Which I was like, wait, what are you talking about? I want them to be a 6. Well, if they are going to be a 6, then you need to be a 7. And I was like, oh, dang it. So you just have to remember that it's going to be one lower or maybe more, depending on wherever your lid is.
Yeah. And let me expand on that a little bit because there might be some people
Sure.
out there with this kind of mindset and I want to squish it before we go any further. So people might be like, well, I'm a 6, but I'm going to surround myself with 8s and 9s. So
No, you're not.
yeah, let me tell you, 8s and 9s are not going to be following a 6. Just a little FYI on that there.
Look, they're not even going to surround themselves with 6s.
Yeah.
Let alone follow them. I
Never.
mean, can you imagine? Yeah.
So the whole thing is, you know, and I don't care where you're at right now. If your lid's at a 2, it doesn't matter, Cheryl and me. We're going to be with you for 21 weeks. We're going to teach you the things you need to do to lift that, you know, and it's taken us a long time. Are we at a 10 yet? No. You know, even John says he's not at a 10, but we're always working towards that and asking ourselves, what can we do to improve to become a better leader? And Cheryl, I don't have any tattoos myself. I know you have a few, but if you were to get a tattoo, this is the one to get. Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yeah.
You have to understand that. And I know Cheryl and I we're both really into sports, you know, and team sports really. And seeing the leadership on different teams, you can see the teams that win the championships. They have a leader on that team that's leading it, you know, and as good of a leader as you are, is as good as your organization is going to be. So literally everything rises and falls on leadership. And more specifically, your leadership lid is what determines, again, your success.
Yeah, that is so true. And once you get that idea in your mind, then I think it propels you forward to become a better leader.
Yep. So when our lid rises, you know, competence and good vibes go up. When it falls, when our leadership lid falls, we have incompetence and bad values. Which, wow, that's those are two bad things right there that happen. So we definitely want to focus on elevating here. And Cheryl, I thought this next part, by the way, we highly encourage you to get this 25th edition of John Maxwell's book and follow along with us for the next 21 weeks. But John, in this chapter, Cheryl talked about the law of magnetism or mentioned magnetism. And he said, you are who you attract who you are, not who you want.
Well, and we just talked about that.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but we just talked about that. You're not going to, if you're a 6, you're not going to surround yourselves with 8 or 9s. You attract who you are. So you're going to attract 6 or lower, and probably lower.
Yeah.
Because other 6s aren't going to follow you.
Yeah. You know, so you see marketing classes out there all the time. We've attended lots of marketing classes and they're like, oh, well, come up with who you want to, you know, to attract.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work that way. Okay. It's who you are that's going to attract those people, not who you want. So you got to always look in the mirror and say, if I want that kind of person, I have to be that kind of person. Kind of like with love, I want more love in my life. Well, you got to give more love to get more love.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of philosophy on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then, I mean, we've kind of already talked a little bit about this, but just to be clear, if you are a 7 leader, then there's no way that you're going to have an 18.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just no way. It's always going to be one lower. So what do you have to do? Well, if you want number 8 team, if you want a team that has, 8s on it, you have to be a 9 leader.
Yeah.
And I think this is, I mean, just think about it. Who are you going to follow? You don't follow someone who you believe is, less on the leadership scale than you are ever.
Right.
I would never do that.
Right.
Right.
And I love how John talks about 2 different types of people. There's leaners and then there's lifters. So you have to really decide which one are you. And I know there's people out there, and it seems like, especially this time in history, Cheryl, that there's more leaners that I see than ever. So you have to decide which one you're going to be. And we were hoping that you make the decision to be a lifter today, because true leaders create more leaders. That's the best leader out there.
Well, and Paul, one of the greatest things that I think we do on the podcast is we help people, we give people things that they can do to become better, right? To elevate. That's what we're all about. And so let's talk about how we can lift our lid, because I'm like, okay, well, this whole podcast, we've talked about lifting our lid, lifting our lid, lifting our lid. Well, how do we do that? And we've got some really good ideas here for you. The very first one is personal growth every day.
Yeah. I mean, John says, I read, I think, I write. I mean, it's just 3 things he does in life, So reading starts with the personal growth, working on yourself. That's how you make the lid go up.
Yep.
Then the second thing, Cheryl, is what we do these things. We do the personal growth. We read all the books and everything. And then we do these podcasts, which are adding value to people. At least we hope it's adding value to you. So we do that every single day. We're always looking to add value to people. And what's the third thing, Cheryl?
Well, then we have to produce results, right?
Yeah.
You have to build credibility, because if you don't have credibility, then no one will follow you.
Yeah, this is a big one. I think a lot of people do personal growth and they do add value to other people, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to the results. What results have you produced?
Yeah.
Has your organization gotten bigger or has it gotten smaller? Is the sales volume going up or is it going down? Whatever it is that you're leading, you got to have positive results at the end. And that by doing that and going through the process of growing and adding value and then producing great results, you'll continue to lift your lid and have a better organization. So Cheryl, just wrap this up. What is our +1 from today's lesson?
Well, it's awesome. And what it is it's the level of your leadership lid determines the level of your success. So it's all about the level of your success. And it is intertwined and linked with your leadership lid. And Paul, I think it's so important. I just want to remind people, you need to figure out what that is. You have to know what your leadership lid number is, right? On a scale from 1 to 10. You have to know what that is so that so you have a baseline where you're going to start, and then you're able to move forward and see the progress that you're making. Because sometimes I think it's hard to see that if we don't know where we're starting and then what we're going to be doing every day and seeing the difference, in a very short period of time.
Yeah. This is a very difficult thing to do, to look in the mirror and say, how good of a leader am I? And what I encourage you to do is to not just ask that question, but ask 5 people you're around a lot.
Well, no, I don't know.
Because I guarantee you, whatever number you think you are, they're going to knock you down a notch or 2.
Or they might not. They might think you're more.
They may not.
And that
They
would
may
be
not.
super cool too.
Yeah, depending if you're talking to honest people or people who want to make you feel good today.
I have all the people picked out that I'm going to ask. And one is my mom.
Oh, Cheryl, you're 12. We're talking 10. My mom.
Yes.
Got my list, my dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
The best goal I've ever seen in my whole life is this guy said, my big goal in life is to be the type of guy that my dog thinks I am. Because, just your dog loves you no matter what and thinks you're
Yeah.
a 10 all the
I
time.
love that. I love that. That is so cute.
Very cool. Well, we're encouraging you to elevate your life. And today we're encouraging you to elevate your leadership, elevate your lid. And why are we doing that, Cheryl?
We're doing that, Paul, so that we can move people from fine to fabulous.
Awesome. All right. We'll catch you on the flip side. We'll get the book and we will talk about law number 2 next week. Until then, have a great day, everyone.